In the world of MMA, we have our fair share of bullies. We're talking fighters who are nice in the cage and out. Fighters who take the extracurriculars way too far. The thing is, very few MMA fighters go undefeated, so almost all these big bad bullies of MMA got absolutely wrecked at one point or another. For this video, in no particular order, we're talking about 10 biggest MMA bullies who got humbled really quickly. These are the times when the big bad wolves of MMA got their butts absolutely kicked. Before we get to the meat of the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more videos on the coolest sports content. Tito Ortiz is a dude who spews a whole lot of garbage. He just yells out a whole lot of trash talk, and he's as big of a heel as you can get. The man once over-exaggerated his injuries, and that got fans fuming. Another absolute dick move was when he rained on Mark Coleman's interview at UFC 109 by trash-talking while he was in the middle of his post-fight interview. Another famous bully move from Tito Ortiz was when he called Chuck Liddell a raging alcoholic. But this bully move got him what was coming to him. These two feudings got Chuck Liddell ready to absolutely wreck Tito Ortiz silly with 2 of their 3 MMA bouts, ending up with Tito Ortiz absolutely getting knocked out by Chuck Liddell. Tito Ortiz may have gotten beaten silly by Chuck Liddell, but his biggest beatdown in L still has to be that Twitter fiasco when he accidentally showed his little Tito online. Matt Hughes is a douchebag in every single sense of the word. This guy's just an absolute mess. If you need proof that he's a bully, then all you need to do is to read his book humbly titled Made in America, the Most Dominant Champion in UFC. The man talks about beating his own dad and threatening to beat his mom, how funny it was when he vandalized people as a kid and lots of beating up people for no apparent reason. And while half of the book is probably hyperbole, it doesn't change the fact that the whole MMA world confirms that Matt Hughes is a bully. One guy who gave Matt a taste of his own medicine is George St. Pierre. GSP may have gotten wrecked as a young fighter in his first championship fight against prime welterweight champion Matt Hughes. In their next fight though, GSP was in his prime and he absolutely wrecks Matt Hughes with a knockout. And in their final bout of the trilogy, GSP easily submits him. Matt Hughes just could not retaliate against prime GSP, and all he could do was call GSP a boring fighter. You may primarily know Chael for his legendary trash talks, but the trash talk is stuff Chael needs seeing as how he's widely considered a douchebag by people all over the MMA world. While the whole being this giant raging bully may just be a facade, it doesn't make the stuff he says any less outrageous. Chael just spews so many hot takes, with blatant disregard for anyone who hears them. There was unfortunately one guy who absolutely wrecked him despite his constant trash talk. Chael Sonnen fought Silva twice in his career, and both times were absolute wreckings on Chael. The first time around, despite all of Chael's trash talk, the first matchup was a brutal one, but Silva eventually was able to just submit Chael, in the end getting him to win. In their second meeting, Chael got absolutely bodied when Silva threw bunches of punches that just left Chael rocked. Even the bad boy gangster of the MMA couldn't survive the spider. No fighter was more popular than Jorge Masvidal after his insane knockout on Ben Askren, which put him on the map. Masvidal had everyone on his side with his humble beginnings as a bar fights guy, who then became one of the most electrifying fighters in the UFC. It seems, however, the fame, glitz, and glamour got this man real cocky. This guy is no stranger to bullying behavior in the MMA. Like that time he went out mid-interview to start a fight with Leon Edwards. There was also the time he started his fight with Darren Till with a running kick straight to manhood. Darren Till wasn't faced though and proceeds to beat Masvidal down, but Masvidal still ended up winning that one. No one kicked Masvidal back to reality quite like Kamaru Usman. In their first bout, Masvidal had a chance at the belt, but he was kicked down, and Usman won by decision. Their next bout, and Masvidal's second chance at the championship, was halted by Kamaru Usman in more convincing fashion, as Usman absolutely knocked Masvidal out early in the second round. No one has embraced the bully role quite like Josh Koscheck. The guy talks heavy smack and acts like a real villain when he's fighting out there. Koscheck has been described by fans as not only a bully but a dumb one, spewing out nonsense and basically a poor man's Chael Sonnen with how much he instigates fights. There was one fight that absolutely wrecked the MMA's biggest bully, and it was this fight between the old vet and up-and-comer Tyron Woodley. Woodley showed his hands were ready this time, as he knocked Koscheck out in the first round, no ground and pound needed. Koscheck was on a really bad losing streak when this fight happened. At this humbling loss probably didn't give him the confidence to go out and win another fight. Out of all our picks here, no one may be more unhinged than Quinton Rampage Jackson. The man was an absolute troll, like all those pre-fight interviews he had before his fight against Ariel Helwani. The man also constantly had the weirdest interactions, like that time he motorboated a reporter, the time he humped a reporter, and that time he dry humped a reporter again. No man quite humbled this weird hulking bully more than the legendary Vanderlei Silva. Silva and Rampage's fights in Pride were the stuff of legend, and both times they met in the Pride circuit ended in Rampage getting beaten up badly. Both times they met for the welterweight championship of Pride. In both times, Quinton got absolutely steamrolled in a knockout by Vanderlei Silva. Rampage did get one win after years later, when he finally won when the two met again at UFC 92. As you would expect from the WWE wrestler who was once known as a super heel, Brock Lesnar brought that villain energy to the octagon. Brock wasn't just trash-talking bully. Brock Lesnar came in and terrified people, instilling fear in anyone who wanted the smoke. Brock was an insane beast and was actually pretty quiet throughout his MMA career, but he clearly made enemies when he absolutely got into Frank Mir's face at UFC 100 and was just embracing the heel energy the crowd was giving him. He then went on to actually trash Bud Light, which was one of the MMA's biggest sponsors at the time. This was Brock at his biggest I don't give a damn era. After losing the belt, Lesnar was up against an up-and-coming fighter in Alistair Overeem, and the big guy was clearly outmatched by this up-and-coming star. Alistair Overeem gets a perfect liver kick that just gets Lesnar dropped to the ground and gets the newcomer a dominant win over the older bully. An MMA fighter whose literal nickname is the Bully definitely deserves to be here. Although to be fair, Maynard did get his nickname from a bulldog he saved. This wrestler also definitely deserved the nickname by his somewhat cocky demeanor inside the ring. Everyone remembers the time his cockiness got him an infamous no contest loss, which ended with him and another fighter both getting knocked out. No one shot this bully up more convincingly, however, than MMA legend Nate Diaz. Nate absolutely smacked Gray Maynard out the first time around, delivering a clean first-round knockout. Maynard won in a tough decision win the second time around, but in their third and last bout at the Ultimate Fighter 18 finale, Nate Diaz got an easy first-round knockout in Maynard. In MMA, if you're gonna bully someone, you're gonna have to back it up, or risk getting embarrassed. If you only follow UFC, there's a good chance you don't know Shinya Aoki, but this man is an absolute submission specialist, and he's oftentimes considered one of the best Japanese MMA fighters ever. The guy may be known for such devastating dominance, but he's also known for doing some messed up things to other fighters. There's the time he ruthlessly broke Mizuto Haruto's arm at K1 Dynamite 2009. He then proceeds to both flip off the crowd and the guy whose arm he just broke. There was also the time he rushed another fighter during a post-fight interview who had just gotten beaten up badly himself and proceeded to keep going off as he was being stopped. No other fighter probably humbled this walking nutcase more than another Japanese MMA legend, Yoshihiro Akiyama. Shinya Aoki had actually been taunting Akiyama for years, but despite all the challenges, refused to go up to Akiyama's middleweight weight class. Akiyama finally decided to slim down all the way to lightweight, just so he can fight him on his own terms and shut the bully up himself. During this one championship bout, Akiyama staved off Shinya's one-note style of submitting his opponents and holding on for dear life. Akiyama beat Shinya silly, and after some heavy punches and a knee straight to the face, the fight was in fact over. Shinya Aoki acts tough and shows blatant disrespect to everyone around him, so everyone can cheer on him proudly as Yoshihiro Akiyama brought him way back down to earth. In his prime, nobody talked as loud and talked as much trash as Conor McGregor. The Fighting Irishman had the temperament of a drunk Irishman as well. So many people had McGregor on their hit list, seeing as how McGregor was unstoppable at his peak. Since he had this unstoppable power trip, McGregor basically did whatever the heck he wanted. He trash-talked new MMA fighters, old MMA fighters, and even non-MMA fighters got the smoke. There are of course the multitude of fights he assaulted people off the MMA floor. There's also the dumbass stunt he pulled on Khabib, attacking the bus he was on and injuring a bunch of other fighters. He also assaulted a dude in a pub, bought the same pub, and then proceeded to ban the customer he assaulted in the pub. He's also a showy dick with all the money he made through the MMA and sponsors. One man, however, had the biggest comeback on McGregor, Dustin Poirier. Poirier was already familiar with McGregor earlier in his career, as he got absolutely wrecked by McGregor, who handed him a first-round knockout. The defeat messed Poirier so badly that he moved to lightweight. Then 6 years later, he faced off against McGregor. McGregor had lost before to Nate Diaz and Khabib, but people of course had the Fighting Irish as their favorites to win. Dustin Poirier proceeds to beat McGregor down in the first fight of his new contract. Poirier got his revenge and handed McGregor the first knockout loss of his career. Poirier proceeds to do it again when he forces a knockout again in a third fight, cementing his revenge on one of the most notorious bullies in all of MMA. And that's all for today's video. What's your favorite MMA bully getting beaten up moment? Write your answers down in the comments, and while you're at it, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell for notifications on the newest videos on the best sports content.